Lamborghini is entering the hybrid game with their new Urus SE. And it's not just changes to the powertrain. There are some massive, pretty substantial changes to the exterior and the interior design. Some changes which I love, some changes which I think the previous or the pre-facelifted Urus actually looks better. We're going to compare it. I'm going to compare it, show you exactly what I'm talking about from the front, side, and rear, and also the interior, and compare it to the pre-facelift and this new Urus SE. So before we jump in and do that, let's have a look at what this car is all about, because it is a pretty, I mean, you can't say anything, it just is a beast. We're gonna have a look at this article from Car and Driver, link down below. 2025 Lamborghini Urus now comes in a 789 horsepower plug-in hybrid version. Lamborghini adds a transmission-mounted electric motor to the Urus twin turbocharged 4-liter V8. 189 horsepower is what you get from this electric motor. The battery is located under the SE's floor, has a usable 21.8 kilowatt hours, meaning it could be able to travel in EV mode. Imagine driving your Urus in full EV modes for roughly 30 miles. I think that's a great idea, because sometimes you just want to take it to Publix or to Target or whatever, you're going to the gym and you don't want to make a lot, you just want to chill out, and you can do that with the new Urus SE. Lamborghini, in typical Italian fashion, they says that the Lamborghini SE has two hearts. They gotta put in that Italian emotion. Not just two motors, it got two hearts. So its power from the twin turbo V8 is down slightly from the standard car, making 612 horsepower versus 657 in the non-hybrid. And if Lamborghini is holding back for a future higher performance variant, that might be the reason why they lowered the power a little bit, and I do think that's the case. 789 horsepower though, and 701 pound-feet of torque, thundering from 0 to 62 miles per hour in a claimed 3.4 seconds in a big SUV. That makes the SE 0.1 seconds faster than the standard Urus S. However, it is a little bit slower than the Urus Performante by the same margin. The top speed in EV mode tops out at just under 81 or 80 miles per hour compared to the vehicle's overall top speed of 194 miles per hour in this big beast. The front end features minor tweaks to the hood. We're going to talk more about the design in a minute. As I said, the cargo hatch at the rear has been redesigned to take after the Gallardo. And the Gallardo, to me, is one of the most beautiful Lamborghinis ever made. I love the styling of the Donkerwolke styling for it. A new spoiler and a redesigned diffuser improved downforce by 35% over the standard Urus S. You have new 23-inch wheels with more than 100 paint options and a larger 12.3-inch screen mounted to the center of the dash, sporting Lamborghini's most recent digital interface. Borrowed a little bit, stuff from Audi there. We expect pricing for the SE to be similar to the Performante when it launches, probably starting around $275,000. With that said, let's jump in. Photoshop, because there are some massive changes here that I wasn't really expecting for the Urus SE. I thought it was just going to be a powertrain upgrade, but we have a bunch of different styling updates as well. Very interesting to see. So starting with the front end and then going to the side, rear, and the interior. Here we have, up top, we have the Urus that we're all used to seeing by now. We have a very, I wouldn't call this over-stylized, because every line here seemed to have a purpose, and that is part of the overall Volkswagen identity, to have these lines. And you also need to make sure that it still has a Lamborghini identity or DNA, which I do think this has, the previous or the pre-facelift Urus. I love the headlights with the Y shape here, and also this little dip that goes down before it goes up. Creates a nice exterior housing for the headlight design. But looking at the new one here, a lot of changes to talk about. First of all, starting at the very bottom, this wing or this fin here, this bar that goes in the middle, is now gone. So they removed this. Instead, we do have two fins or wings just sticking up like this in the Urus SE, and doesn't have a body-colored connection in the middle, which creates, I'm not sure if I like that or not, because now we have a massive grill. This is probably one of the biggest grills I've ever seen on any car. Everything here in the side, in the middle, and on this side, of course, as well, it's all open now. And I think having this body-colored bar that we had in the previous Urus just separates it more and creates a more of an definition between what the top half of the front end is and what the lower half. Now everything is just one big black hole in the front end. It might look good in real life. I have to wait and see if I actually prefer the new one over the old one. But in this, right now, I think I prefer the more stylized features that we have in the pre-facelift Urus for the front end. And that goes for the headlights as well. We have new headlights, and in my opinion, this removes a lot of the identity for Lamborghini to just have a simple, same thickness, very thin LED just following this outline for the headlights. I do think it looks cheaper than the old Urus because this has a lot thicker LED, and it's also in the shape of this Y shape that we're used to seeing from Lamborghini. I do understand that it's, you know, at some points you need to evolve from your key graphic features, but I don't think it's time yet to move away from the Y-shape headlights and taillights that we've used to seeing for Lamborghini. You can see that this dip at the bottom of the headlight as well, this little dip that we have going right here, the dips down here, is also gone. Instead, we just have a straight line now. And this removes, again, some of the identity. They're probably not gonna do it, but I really hope Lamborghini is not gonna morph into this new trend that we have of everything being very smooth and remove any sort of identity from cars. Lamborghini would be the last brand to do that, I hope, but it feels like this is just one step closer to that type of styling. We also have this line, this chamfer here at the bottom is now inverted, so now this chamfer is facing upwards instead, and I do like that because I think that makes it feel that this side intake on the side are protruding out from the front end, looking nice. We also have a new hood here with these lines are brand new for the Urus. You don't have those lines on the previous pre-facelift. And we also have a much more pronounced indent for the black graphics right here up top, which again creates just a bigger overall grille for the front. It also looks a little higher now because previously this body color piece went further down on into the front end, which made it look more sporty and less SUV-like. Now with this big massive grille in the front, it feels like it sits a little higher, but overall it's still a good looking SUV, and it definitely still Lamborghini in the front end. Now looking at side view, not a lot of changes in the side view. It takes a lot of inspiration from the Performante in the rear end, for example. But I've always been a fan of, I like this styling because it feels like the designers are just going nuts at Lamborghini. That's what they do. They just go crazy. They have a meeting. Let's just make a sick looking SUV. Who cares if it looks a little over stylized? It doesn't matter. It's still Lamborghini DNA in here, and we still have that intact in the new SE. The key side lines and the body panels look very much the same because I don't think they changed that. But we do have a new rear bumper here, and I do believe that this is the Performante bumper, if I'm not wrong, by having this intake now facing this way instead of facing this way like it did on the previous one. The front end also, you can see the changes here that we talked about. The wheels, fantastic looking wheels, 23-inch wheels down here, looking great. I actually like it in black. Very few cars I like having black wheels on, but in this case I just think it looks great on Lamborghini Urus. Now looking at the rear end, and there are some big changes here in the rear end. I definitely prefer the changes that were, 100% the changes that were made in the rear over the changes they did in the front end, because thankfully we still have the Y-shaped taillights, first of all, key graphic features of Lamborghini, and now we also have this pattern, this black piece in the middle, which looks great to have this section sort of connecting the two graphic features. We did have that before as well, but it was very thin. Now it sticks down all the way to this area, and this whole piece is now black. I think that looks fantastic. Another detail that I love of the rear end is one huge line that just appeared out of nowhere, it seems, and that is this center line for the entire rear end. So we have a fold right in the center, and we did not have that in the previous pre-facelift. We were all smooth and curved all the way around here without this center line that we have going now in the new SE, which looks really cool. I do think that adds to the chamfer and sharpness of Lamborghini, and I also like the new intakes that we have here, or outlets, that is Performante style with these lines here instead of having the angled this way. Even though there's nothing wrong with that, I just prefer to have it be angled in line with the wheelhouse angles here. Another detail that is brand new for the rear end is if you look at the diffuser, and this is why I think the rear end is a better approach. Even though we have more black graphics in the rear, which we also had in the front, but in the rear you want to have that. In the front, for a Lamborghini, you want to have more body color to make it feel more exotic and less like an SUV, like we had in the previous Urus. But here we have the new diffuser now sticking up into the bodywork here with this section, and this just makes it feel lighter in the rear because now we have a less body panels colored in the rear than what we had in the previous one. I don't know if this makes sense, but you can see that this diffuser does not stick up as far as it does in the new SE, but I actually prefer when it does that because it gives it a much more aggressive rear end and also gives it a more dynamic feeling moving forward when we have less body colored mass in the rear than what we have in the previous generation. Now, last but not least, I think that's all the changes for the rear end. We also have a brand new diffuser here, as you can see. This entire diffuser is completely redesigned with some new fins here in the middle. Now, looking at the interior, huge changes here as well. You might not see them at first, but if you look closely, you can see that they restyled the entire interior for the Urus SE. Thankfully, Lamborghini did not go in the direction that Audi and I do believe Volkswagen also is doing right now, not as much as Audi, but by having just a big screen on the dash. I love this interior. Just have a look at how dramatic this old Urus interior is with this, thrust mode pedal that you have looking at an airliner. We still have all of that intact. We still have the housing for the gauge cluster. Thankfully, it's still digital. We have a new screen here. I'm not sure if this lower screen is new. It looks to be pretty much the same, which is fine. It's the Audi setup when you have a separated screen down at the bottom for your climate control settings. That's the only purpose for that screen. And I do like, if you're not gonna have physical buttons, you need to have a static piece that is always going to be there for the climate control settings, and that's exactly what we have here. We have the same, of course, controls for the drive modes here. You can see that, and the engine start button underneath this little flap. You just fold it up and press the start button. And we also have a brand new styling because now we have a separation between the top part, this part here, and the lower section of the interior by this line. So this is completely brand new, having this be in leather, as you can see, separating the two screens. And thankfully, the buttons that then were in this area they're still there, but they just moved them down to this area. So we still have those physical buttons, thankfully. We have some redesigns of the air vents themselves. They look a little better, maybe integrated here in the new SE, in my opinion. But overall, it's a subtle change. It's both a substantial change for the interior, but it's very subtle. So you have to look hard to see what they actually changed. And when you do that, you realize that they really redesigned the entire interior for the Lamborghini Urus. Overall, though, I do think this is a great update. I do wish they worked more on the headlight design. That is my biggest disappointment with this new update. I'm not a fan of the new headlights, and I would love to have the old ones back with the rest of the changes intact for the new 2025 Lamborghini Urus SE.